Today we're working on a bracelet, either a men's or a ladies bracelet, depending on the size. Um, I've braided a 4-plait round braid that is just about approximately 7.5 inches long. Um, String size, it's about a little bit bigger than 3/16 width and about 5/64 in diameter or in thickness. And I've started to do the foundation on it, and I will add a long button and then a pineapple knot on the end, and it will come together something similar to that. The ends are a little bit long, but they will get clipped, and I'll put a couple Spanish ring knots on the end of it as a foundation for the pineapple knot. Once it gets all said and done, the long button will go here, and then I'll set a couple Spanish ring knots on the end of it there. You could go ahead and put a slider button just to keep it together so that your end, once your pineapple knot goes in through there, it won't slide out. But with the size of pineapple knot that will go on the end of it, after I've created the loop in here, with the spring that's in the rawhide itself, it won't let it bounce out because of the pineapple knot that'll attach to the end of it here. The way I started is I'll go ahead and braid once again a 4-plait round braid, and then there's usually a loop on the end of it where I begin my braid. I'll set it up, stretch it out, and then wet it down, soap it up a little bit, and then I'll go ahead and try to refinish and kind of set my braids in it there. I'll use a rubbing stick. Or once I go ahead and use a rubbing stick on it, it generally sets all the braids down a little bit better. Once it's fully dry, to create the loop itself here, I'll go ahead and use a dowel and place the dowel inside, case up the rawhide here on the base of the dowel, and with a piece of wax thread or cotton thread, whatever's available, I'll just go ahead and suck that base of it down to where it's really snug up against that dowel, creating that loop that way. And then I'll go ahead and I'll finish off that loop with a rubbing stick as well too. Once it fully dries, then I'll just take it out, and that's what creates that loop, and that'll never come off unless you take a shower with it or something like that, which is not recommended. And then, like I mentioned, that's once all that's said and done, then I'll go ahead and start creating my foundations on what I want. I've gone under here, used wax thread, gone around it once, and then I've taped it. And then once I've gone this far with the foundation, I tend to try to cheat a little bit, and I don't know if it's necessarily right or wrong. I talked to Mr. Haverty about that, and he says it might create a little bit more work, but for me, it's kind of easy just to tie the button around a dowel and get it set to where I think is what it should be, create my foundation, and then I'll go ahead, and the button's already been tied. So my next step would be just to slip it over the whole bracelet itself, and it's set there. Like I said, I tend to try to cheat a little bit because I can go ahead and just sit down and tie the button itself. I don't have to fiddle around with having it, get the ends caught up on something or whatever, I could just sit and, you know, listen to the radio or whatnot and tie the button there. I've done the same thing with the pineapple knot itself. That's going to go on the base of it. So, like I said, once I tie my Spanish ring knots on the end here, I'll just go ahead and slip the pineapple knot over it, and then go to tightening it up over the Spanish ring knots itself, where I want that pineapple knot to sit. And like I mentioned, once, you know, it should set in there, and because of that loop and wherever you set that pineapple knot and the size of the pineapple knot itself, it should keep it pretty snug in like that. Once I have all my buttons in, and everything's all snugged up and nice and tight, I've really gotten to the point where I really like my buttons really, really smooth, especially since they're on your wrist, and rawhide could be a little bit on the sharp side and give you a little bite. I like going back and taking a rubbing stick and then just go over all my buttons really, really well. I'll even go a little bit as far as putting a little bit of water on them and some soap, and then just rubbing them down really, really good. I'll even take a nice pair of shaping pliers, shape that button really, really well before I even start smoothing it out, so I get that cylinder look or a little round ball look, whichever look that we're after there. And after that, just kind of size it up and hope for the best that somebody likes it. I'll put water on it, and I'll be honest that sometimes I've been told that spit or saliva actually does something to the rawhide and makes it more shapeable for some reason. I'm not sure what it is, but I don't know if it's because it's more viscous than water, but it does seem to do something to the rawhide itself to polish it up and get it a nice, even, smooth surface that way.
You ever had a lollipop? You pick a button on the bracelet, put it in your mouth like a lollipop, that quick, and it does polish better than just straight water. I'm serious.
It really does.
I mean, we laugh at it and everything, but I'm
Yes.
like the Argentinians, when they're braiding with that horsehide, they don't spray it with water or case it overnight. They just run it right through their mouth, and then go to work.
That's correct. Tomorrow, I'll, like I mentioned, I still have to put the buttons on here and get a little bit more progress done. But by tomorrow, I'll share the finished product, or I might have the pineapple knot to tie, and we could probably go through that while I'm tying the pineapple knot and the finished product there. Depending on the length that I want, I'll put those Spanish ring knots right towards the end, giving my finished length, or allowing for. So if it's 7.5 inches from here to here, I want those Spanish ring knots somewhere just right above 7.5.
Are you going to make them so that they don't move? So are you going to go through the...
Yes, correct. What I'll do is I'll push an awl through those braids there,
Yeah.
push a wax string through it, and then tie those so that those never come apart. And then I'll put my one Spanish ring on top and one on the bottom, just to create that foundation on it. And then I'll go ahead and tie that button up on top of it there.
Yep. Got it. Understand that.
Okay. All right. Since the last time that we talked, we'd built the bracelet portion of the bracelet, the 4-plait round braid, doubled it over, made an eye for the clasp per se. Then, since then, tied the long button over it, a couple Spanish ring knots for decoration. The reason being that it's taped on both sides is when you soap up or use any type of moisture on the on dyed rawhide like that, sometimes it tends to bleed, not all the time. Red is kind of notorious for bleeding, so this is the reason why I've put the tape around it there. I've also tied my foundations for the pineapple knot, which will cover it. That'll also be in a red color as well. So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and clip these ends here right at the very, very base of that, or very top of the Spanish ring knot. And as I mentioned before, I kind of cheat a little bit and tend to tie my buttons on a dowel, and which makes it easier for me to just go ahead and slip it over and start tightening it from there. So as I mentioned, we'll cut right at the base, or the top of it, I'm sorry. Everything under those Spanish ring knots has been tied together at underneath the Spanish ring knots with wax thread to keep those in place. The wax thread has gone in between the round braid portion of the bracelet, tied in a knot, and then the Spanish ring knots placed over the thread so that it won't come off. So here we just slip it over. I try to close it up as best as I can up top. Once I get things snugged up where I want, and there's little adjustments that go around the Spanish ring knot. This is just a regular pineapple knot. This knot's long knot, and it's basically the same knot here, just elongated. Both those knots are available to learn in Mike Hickey's book, aka Tom Hall, or Enrique Capone's book. So once I get it nice and snug and secure on where I want it, then I'll go ahead and start tightening it up. Sometimes you'll have a string that kind of sticks out, and that's the one that I'll start first. I don't know if that's the correct way, but that's the way that I do it, and just start tightening up from there. I really won't pull on it too tight. I just want to apply a little bit of tightness so that it goes around. And I'll just follow those strings around. You don't want to really pull on them too tight, because it'll stretch your rawhide out a little bit and you'll get white marks, stretch marks in the rawhide. Want to make sure your V's are as straight as you could get them, so it looks parallel with your bracelet. Since it's rawhide, you don't want to kind of want to take a little bit of care of it. You don't want to, I don't suggest a shower with it. I not really ruined, but had a nice bracelet made by Graham Quisenberry out of some mare's belly, and accidentally took a shower with it and kind of made it a little bit sloppy, but was able to put it around a beer bottle and it kind of took shape again, and luckily I didn't ruin it. Something like that. What I'll do with this is I'll end up rubbing it down with some beeswax, and the beeswax will kind of waterproof it, but yet being that it'll be waterproof, I still don't suggest to wear it in the shower. Then I'll just go find another kind of a sloppy string that stands out that needs to be tightened up. I'll just go around and continue to snug it up. I've gone as far as putting a little bit of like a polyurethane coat on them, a little shellac or something like that, kind of to make them shiny. That'll really bring out the red color in it and the natural color in the rawhide. It'll also help with a little bit of waterproof and kind of wear and tear on it. That pineapple knot, I had it in a bag and it was all tempered up. I didn't have to add any moisture to it at all. It's still pretty pliable. Once again, I'll go back up. I'll check all my braids, see if I could find kind of a loose string. You'll see loose strings, say like that one I'm not too happy with, so I'll go back and retighten that. That one will probably be my next one that I'll go back and retighten. And I want this top here to really, really close up as tight as I can so you don't see that clip portion of that bracelet on the inside. Some of those are a little bit on the loose side. I got two there, but I was lucky enough to come across the one that's going to snug that down. Every time you make a pass, you want to make sure that that string's laid up on the other one. It's not twisted up on you. You want to keep checking your temper, especially on these small, tiny strings like that, because they'll sure lose their temper right quick. So I think we're getting just about close to the end. We're gonna pull on this long string here and bury our ends and kind of polish things up a little bit, and we'll be done. So that's my last pass there. We'll pull on that long string. As I said, keep it kind of as straight as you can. It'll want to twist on you. That'll be a clipped end there. And this guy will bury back over in here.
It'll be a perfect knot or a total screw up one way or the other. This much in.
We'll give it a slight little pull. Try to clip it as close as we can to the exit there. Same with this. Always suggest to use a pair of nippers on it or something instead of using a razor blade. What I'm doing is trying to push it down from the top. See if I could get a better bite at the base of it. I'll run a pair of shaping pliers around it. It's possible to cover that little center up on the inside. You could, is maybe before you start doing the knot itself, you go ahead and cut out a little disc and glue it to the top of the Spanish ring knot there, and then you'll only see a piece of leather as versus seeing a little bit of the cut ends of that rawhide on the inside.
Share ideas and see what happens.
So I was pretty successful at getting it closed up as tight as I could. Go down on the base of it and try to suck it up to that foundation that I created there. I mentioned you could see the little bit of the dies come off on that button there. So that's one of the reasons, as I mentioned before, you want to kind of tape that up a little bit so you don't get that on there. As that rawhide dries, seeing that it does rub off on your hands when you're braiding it, this is already dried overnight, so there's less of a risk for it to kind of rub off on your hands unless you go ahead and get it damp again or get it wet somehow. So as that button dries next couple hours, it'll set up a lot better. So after that step, after that's all done, I would say to put a little bit of beeswax and buff it out and add your favorite rawhide cream to it. And that should go ahead and clasp together just like that. Because of the spring in it here, due to the rawhide being dry, I don't think that'll ever come out of there. Unless you snag it up on something or whatever. You could go ahead and put another Spanish ring knot here to slide up and down. I'll have my beautiful model Nancy try it on here and see how it fits.
My wonderful dry hands. Dun, 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 dun. I should have done a hand modeling career. It does look like a raspberry.
It does. So I guess that's about it.